of one of the bills in this legislative hearing. Mr. Latta, for your 5 minutes of questioning.
Well, thanks, Mr. Chairman, and again, thanks for letting me wave on today. Mr. Shapiro, let's talk preemption. Other than the fact that California made clear it needed to preempt its own cities on traveling the state, it seems a bit odd that there wouldn't be a federal policy that didn't recognize the need to cross state lines. Especially for this committee, the Interstate Commerce Clause is very important. Would you provide some perspective on the need to establish preemptive standards to set uniformity over the design, performance, and construction of AVs? Because I sure don't want to be driving in a AV in Northwest Ohio and get to the Indiana or Michigan line and it just says we're pulling over.
I agree with the premise of the question. What distinguishes the United States, which has been incredibly innovative and successful, from our friends in Europe, is that we have the national ability to reach our 330 million or so marketplace with standardized products. To the extent we deviate from that, we're hurting our competitiveness. And Europe hasn't had a lot of innovation in a lot of areas, to be honest, lately, for a whole bunch of reasons, and I think they're the model that we love them, but we don't want to emulate them. And I think if you have to change your license plate and change your rules as you cross straight lines, that's a problem. New York has a rule that says that every car there, you have to have a foot in touching the brake and things like that. Or there's rules which are difficult and impossible to follow. So I do agree, though, that there is state and local rights. They have the right to set speed limits. They have the right to figure out their traffic and what they're doing. And there's areas of overlap and balance.
Sorry about that. It's 55 as you cross the next road. You know, we understand that. But we're talking on the preemption side, that bumper to bumper.
Well, certainly self-driving, if we deploy it as your legislation and the Dingle complement envisions, we will reduce the bumper to bumper, we'll reduce the disparity in speed among the different cars, we'll be more efficient, we'll be greener, we'll have fewer parking structures, we'll greater deploy cars in the sense that right now the average car is used about 10 to 12 hours a week. These cars could be used 40 to 50 hours, they could be shared, they could be cheaper, they won't have the heavy weight that's required and the cost of having all the driver features. The opportunities here are enormous, and I can't say that we could predict exactly what they will be, but just any one of them is great. Empowering the disabled, helping the economy, increasing, being more efficient in energy. Look, there won't be people driving around lost anymore. I mean, we're going to get some people off the road, and the driving that's there will be much more efficient. And if we could just get rid of, you know, even 50% of the accidents, we're in great shape. This is like, I've testified before Congress dozens of times now. Let me tell you, this is the most important testimony I feel I'm giving because we got to get there for so many different reasons.
Mr. Mazzella, you mentioned something. I think we need to go back to this. You mentioned about companies out there right now, or, you know, we've been working on this for years, and I know it. There's been a lot of work done by so many different companies. Are we losing companies out there on the innovation side that are just saying, you know, we're going to throw up our hands and say this isn't going to get done in the United States, and they just can't keep funneling money into a company or into projects that aren't going to, they don't see an end to?
Yeah, the short answer is yes, and that's unfortunate. We are very much, in my opinion, at a crossroads here. There is massive capital that needs to be deployed to develop and build out and commercialize this technology. We've been at it for quite some time. As you referenced in your comments, when we first started this exercise together, it was an R&D exercise. Now we're deploying technology, proving out business cases, and showing use cases. This is critical that we get this done now. We are going to lose more companies and our innovative edge to other countries if we don't do this now.
You know, just real quickly, how much have we lost? How many companies out there have just said, we give up? And pretty much, as you mentioned about that technology and that expertise going someplace else.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to know because there's so much change and flux in this environment right now. New companies starting all the time and challenged companies moving out. But there is certainly one well-known company that was partnered with major automotive manufacturers that, and I think Mr. Shapiro referenced it in his testimony, a company known as Argo that is no longer operating. as a result of uncertainty and capital allocation decisions that had to be made by their partners. This is real, and it can continue to happen if we cannot provide an opportunity and a framework to scale.
Could I just add something quickly to that? I will say, though, that if your legislation becomes law, that will be not only a strong message to those that are already in there, but for others that want to enter and for those that are considering investments and coming up with the money, that's a statement, especially if you include some milestones in the legislation.
Right. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for allowing me to wave on, and I yield back.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe Mr.